The Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Looking for the best pool supplies? Look no further than Dohany's Pool Supplies. With a history dating back to 1967, this family-owned business offers everything families need to keep their pools clean and sparkling, from chemicals to equipment. Plus, customers enjoy free shipping on all orders. Visit Dohany's Pool Supplies today at doheny.com, DOHENY.com, to learn more. Forest Bluff Real Estate Team serves Illinois, Wisconsin, Lake Forest, and Lake Bluff. John Josephitis, Laura Lee Van Fleet, and of course, Michelle Parnell. Get a free market analysis now at forestbluffrealestate.com. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Havey Communications has been helping first responders arrive safely since 1983. It's owned by Lake Forest's own Mike Havey. Check them out at haveycommunications.com. Are you looking for beer, wings, and swings in Lake Forest? Well, check out Duffer's Pub and their state-of-the-art golf simulators. This primo setup is the perfect place for your next corporate event. Yes, let your boss win. And of course, all the games will be on the TV, and you'll never go hungry because the za and wings are scrumptious. Go to Duffer's Pub on Western Avenue now. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters: Otto, John C., and Helen. Philippe Navidad.
What's up, Pete? How you doing, brother?
Interesting week, huh?
Yeah, lots of stuff going on.
Where do we begin? Now, obviously, we got a hot mic, and we'll edit out anything questionable. Just let me know. Which could be 90% of the show. You never know, Philippe.
I don't think so. Hey, what do you think? So is this kind of like I'm your guest, or am I? So we're just kind of shooting this, just kind of a.
We're at the bar.
We're at the bar.
In fact, I'll leave that. Yeah, we're at the bar. We're at the Lantern.
Okay.
We're at Duffers. We're at Chiefs. We're sitting down and.
Should I go get my koozie, my podcast koozie? Probably should go find that.
Keep it off of eBay. No, I think, we've had a whole bunch of new subscribers checking us out, and they're trying to figure out what we're all about here, trying to figure out what I'm all about.
Yeah.
So,
keep them guessing, right?
Well, just like our wives. So I think we should start with how we got together. We got together on a rocky start, didn't we, Philippe?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it was a competitive sort of situation. You thought maybe. No,
there's no maybe with
me. Different team. We were on kind of different teams, but you didn't really realize, I think, maybe that you were on the wrong team at that point, which is totally fine. You're doing your duty as you're doing your duty as a caucus civic man. I probably would have done the same thing if I were you. So
Aaron, tell everybody, share it with the class.
Yeah.
Or you want me to share it? Because I'll have a different.
No, I'm happy to. Are we getting started, or is this?
Yeah, we're starting. We've been going. Okay. We're using everything so far.
The Lake Forest Podcast. All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, Pete, I met you while you were doing your civic duty here in Lake Forest, on the Lake Forest Caucus, which is the same way that I started in Lake Forest. I joined the caucus within the first year of me moving into town. I'm a believer in the idea of the caucus. I think maybe it doesn't always work out the way it should, but that's like anything. But there was, so I had served on the caucus. I had supported candidates in competitive elections in the caucus. But when I had left the caucus, there was coming up, it was the era of the masks and the COVID and the school stuff, and a lot of things that people were upset about. And I just did not like the slate that the caucus picked for the high school board, and
which is the current school board.
Which is many people on the current, not all of them, four of them.
Okay.
And when I say I didn't like it, I mean, they're fine people. I didn't have any personal animosity towards any of them. What I did
all business.
I just did not like what I thought would be their vision and what the vision they're articulating for our kids as my kids coming to school. Anyway, you were serving on the caucus. You as a good soldier were defending your slate, which the caucus should do. And I got involved with the Let's Do Better slate at the high school, and we ran
that was a competing slate, a contested election for the school board, right?
And I wasn't running, but I helped them run. I helped people do advocacy and political campaigns. And so there was a challenge election that the voters spoke and went with the caucus, but and which is how it should be. You know, I guess maybe didn't like me at first. I'm not. You maybe can characterize how you felt about me, but we definitely got into sort of.
I called you a hired gun.
Hired gun.
You know. All that stuff, same stuff you call me. We don't know each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got into Facebook battles.
That's right. And so after the campaign was over, you and I sat down over at Starbucks, and we had a nice.
Was it Lake Bluff or Starbucks? I can't tell people I went to Starbucks.
I think it was a locally owned coffee establishment.
Okay,
but we had a nice chat, and it was we've gotten to know each other, and I really support the podcast, the idea of the podcast, and your podcast, and the competing podcast for that matter.
Any platform that can spread information that's halfway right.
That's right. Tell me if I'm talking too much, Pete.
No, you don't worry. I'll shut you down.
Yeah, shut me down. But listen, I think we have a crisis in society, not just in Lake Forest and Lake Bluff. And it has to do with people forgetting their civic duties to be involved in their local communities. And in some ways, sometimes when people stand up and involve themselves in their civic thing and do what is virtuous, that's what our society is about, is being involved in it and making it happen. It's a citizen thing. And there's sort of I feel a flip, like where maybe it's like it's looked down upon to be involved, and we should just quietly accept the dictates of our leaders or certain people and don't shut
ask
up.
Questions.
I'm not that way. And so I support the podcast, and anytime you ask me to come on, I'll say yes 9 times out of 10, because I support it. I support people being engaged, informed, involved, sharing opinions. That's what makes a rich, vibrant society. And so that's it. So I consider you.
That's your version. All right.
Yeah.
Here's my version. I had to get this podcast going to do something on the cheap where we could interview the school board candidates and put them out there. You had a competing slate, and when you get into a competitive situation, like you say, pointing fingers, and at the end of the day, the caucus won. You guys put up a hell of a fight. You politics, right? I'm a conservative guy. You're a conservative guy. You've made money in politics. You know what's going on. I'm not afraid to tell people that, because if I'm the smartest guy in the room, I want to leave the room, because there's a lot of stuff going on politically that I don't understand, that other people don't understand, that you can understand. If we just get out of the way that, hey, politics isn't an identity. If you're Republican or Democrat, whatever it is, okay, 2 people talking at the bar, that's what we're doing here. So my point is, we didn't get off on the right foot, and there was a lot of, pointing, and now here we are. We're buds. Right?
Yep. Yeah.
And
that's important to keep it always understand that your adversaries, you don't have to hate them just because you disagree with people. It's better that, and
even if they're wrong,
even
if they're wrong and dumb. I didn't say you're dumb. So now let's see, since the school board, okay, you've had you're working with Mary Cole for state's attorney. We had her on the show. She's great, legit, smart lady, and you've gotten parents care Lake Forest, Lake Bluff with Jeff Brincat and Frank McCormick, right?
Yep.
Now, when you come on this show, this is Philippe Melin talking. This isn't all the other brands. This is Pete and Philippe sitting at the bar talking about things that are going into town. And it's not Mary Cole. It's not Lake Forest, Lake Bluff. It's not Jeff. It's Philippe and Pete having a little chat. Did
Yeah,
I get that out right, Philippe?
yeah. It's like makes me a little nervous, it's about me this time. But yeah, no, it's for sure. Yeah, I live in Lake Forest, and I like to work with people and causes. What I do professionally is work with people and causes who I think have a people-centric vision for the world and society. And I try to help them become more effective at communicating and advocating for themselves. And so that's what I do professionally, and I'm happy to talk about those things that they have local relevance. But I'm not speaking on behalf of those organizations or candidates or anybody else today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Philippe. Okay, we've had a lot of stuff going on in town, starting with this tent over at is it Hometown Coffee or Homeless Coffee?
I guess that depends who you ask in town,
Well, I Julie Morrison. Now this is kind of where the politics comes into play, Philippe, because
yeah.
I put something out there. I saw a law. I saw she was part of the law. I don't know what sponsoring a law is. I don't know what voting. All I know is she's from Lake Forest, and she said, "Hey, man, I want to make sure this homeless guy has it as easy as possible to be removed from the premises." Is that how I'm reading that homeless act?
You could read it that way. I did become familiar with the Homeless Bill of Rights law that the Illinois legislature passed in 2013. It's SB 2010 in 2013. Maybe you could find a link or something like that. So if your listeners want to listen to it, but it provides a number of anti-discrimination provisions in the Illinois code to make sure that government entities aren't discriminating against people who are homeless, and that they have certain rights to private property and being treated decently. So I think, in my mind, it's Senator Morrison who voted for it in 2013 when she was in the Illinois Senate. I assume there's only good intentions on that. Like, I think we can all understand that homelessness is not just something that we can just close our eyes and pretend it doesn't exist. It's real. It exists in our society, and there's real human beings involved in it. But like any law, there may be some provisions that could be overbroad or be too protective, and maybe not balance the competing interests. And I think ultimately, when you have a law that some early readings of like what the situation in Lake Forest, where somebody the Christian, the gentleman who's living there, could put up a tent. I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, Pete. Because there's a number of reasons we can get into it, but it turns out maybe the city of Lake Forest doesn't believe that the Homeless Bill of Rights allows people to put up tents anywhere they want in town, and so anyway, it's a complicated issue, and it's hard to know exactly, maybe blaming isn't the right word, but maybe we need to figure out as a community how we want to address this issue in a thoughtful way.
But politics comes into play because the people on the left say, "Oh, this poor guy, this and that," and the people from the right say, "Hey, man, don't give the guy money. Give him options to choose from." And I talked to this guy on the phone on Tuesday, the 29th. Christion seemed like a good guy. I said, "Hey, man, how about you come on the show?" He said, "Sure." And he was supposed to be on the show like right now, but I guess his phone got disconnected. He's no longer. And I think his tent got disconnected. I think everything got disconnected.
Yeah.
And now the rest of the stuff, Philippe, is all allegedly, but some people have sent me some stuff. I guess he's from Massachusetts. He's got a record, and we're the people on the left. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Philippe, because you're more PC than I am. But the liberals, they're like, "Hey, man, leave the guy alone, give him a chance." And the dude has a tent across from Hometown Coffee, one of the most happening places in town. Kids coming by left and right, and the dude's got a record. And you're like, "Hey, it's okay. He can be there." You see am I looking at that wrong?
Yeah. it's a really tough issue. And I was, for the listeners, that you and I were going to go interview him only with his permission. We weren't going to spring on him or anything like that.
But I talked to him on the phone. He said, fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I was really looking forward to it because, when I work on campaigns and candidates, I think what I bring the value to the people is to try to bring a kind of a people-centric approach to politics and try to make things less about the issues and more about the people. And so I was really interested to learn, to hear from this guy and hear his story. And maybe, if the offer is open in the future, I'll be happy to do it because I would love to do it. Also, but like, I think some people only look at him, so maybe you see the left or whatever. They're like, oh, they only see him as maybe a victim or somebody, but there's a lot of people involved in this issue. There's also the people who live across the street from this tent, who spend, like I have empathy for people who work really, really hard. Maybe they work Saturdays and Sundays and time away from their families for the right and privilege to live in a beautiful community that we live in here in Lake Forest, and they look across the street and they see somebody taking that for free, and they also have a story. So there's people involved in a very complicated issue. So I was looking forward to hearing his story and maybe helping people in town understand, because I think we can look at the issues and then we also have to look at the people. But this issue, my sister's from California, or I'm from California. My sister lives in Los Angeles.
Have fun in San Fran.
This
LA.
is an issue. Yeah, she lives in Los Angeles, and we could talk about how LA has changed some of their policies on homelessness. But it's, I think a lot of people have legitimate concern that if this could explode. And I personally don't want to live in what I see in my mom's neighborhood in Santa Rosa, California, or in Los Angeles or San Francisco, where you have people claiming the public land and changing the culture. In a lot of ways negatively for communities that
but it starts with one, right? It could start with this dude and then another one, and if you don't,
that's the concern.
Look, a bum is a bum, a vagrant's a vagrant. It just turns out, look, allegedly, I mean, I saw the record, so it's there, but I'm just going to say allegedly, you got somebody with a record with your kid going by. How can you be so forgiving of somebody or trying to leave the guy alone? I guess not everybody left him alone. Well, two things. One, I guess allegedly a local attorney in town.
Allegedly. Just put that up on the top corner of the video here so we can.
It's the blotter. It's the blotter. Okay. Tried to do his own eviction on the 27th. And I guess got in the pokey. And then I guess
that was bad. I think that gentleman demonstrated bad judgment. Government doesn't always work as quickly or as effectively as maybe we want, but I spoke with a couple aldermen. I feel that they've handled this. The city has handled this appropriately. And obviously there's a lot of complicated issues. And I think the gentleman who decided to kind of take matters into his own hands made a huge mistake and should have inquired from the city and gotten more information instead of trying to just kind of, pop out and physically confront this guy. That's just not the right decision. We should be an anti-violence, not to say it was particularly violent, but there are some violence in there. And I think that was a bad decision. I don't know much what you think, but I think it was.
Well, it's a lawyer. It's a lawyer that I hired at one time. Not anymore. We'll edit that out. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the FOIA says. But
it highlights, Pete, though, it highlights that this is an issue that it's not just the one person, the gentleman Christion who's in the tent. It does affect a lot of people. And I think if we're really trying to get ends, we got to think about the impact and be fair to all people, not just maybe the sympathetic guy in the tent or maybe the sympathetic neighbor, but we have to kind of try our best to be empathetic. And then, I would say also, Pete, not to cut you off, but like I have the privilege of being a parent. It's a great thing, and it sometimes helps me think through issues about parenting. And like in some ways, they're the people who think that, hey, we have a duty to make this guy as comfortable as possible here in the tent and in Lake Forest. They kind of remind me a little bit of the parent who says yes to everything that their kid wants and never can like provide structure for their child, and they're like, hey, and I'm not I don't know if you look a little confused, but like, like if we're saying, hey, it's okay to live like an urban cowboy, and kind of just sort of plop up everywhere, is that really the best thing for this kid, for this guy, Christion, who's living there? Is that really to say, hey, this lifestyle that you've chosen is okay, and we're going to try to facilitate that as best as possible? Or is it better to maybe be sort of like the type of parent who's a little bit more tough love, and say, listen, this is unacceptable. We will provide you resources. We will provide you the help and support you need to make better decisions. But as a parent or as a community, we don't think this is the best for you. It's not only what's the best for the neighbors and their safety, but also for this guy, because what is he going to live there for 5 years, 10 years? Like his life is going to get deteriorating worse, at least from my perspective. Maybe I don't fully understand it. So maybe we need to be a little bit tougher, make him less comfortable living in our public spaces so that he more likely will make the decision. I assume that he's not mentally unwell and that he's actually like
I talked to him. No, he's all there. He said, hey, man,
Yep.
I don't like the rules at the shelter. And I reached out to, what's it, PADS? I'm not sure how that operates, but
PADS.
Look, call it a mental issue, whatever it is, an addiction issue, drugs, alcohol, whatever. You can't do that in these shelters, right? Or they boot you out. So that's why they go, on the side. I don't know why he picked right in front of Hometown Coffee. I could see Conway Farms or whatever. Maybe that's farther away from the train tracks, but unfortunately, we're by the train tracks. These guys can, hop off and lay on the Walgreens bench. And,
we have a beautiful community. I get it. I get why he would want to live here. I get it. It looks pretty for a campsite. It looks pretty comfortable over there.
All the bums like it here, including me.
yeah, exactly.
So Julie Morrison, I'd love to have you on, which I know is never going to happen. And next in line of never happening is Prue Beidler and then Susan Garrett. But all of those people on that side that defend that way of looking at things, we could conceivably turn into San Fran or LA. Is San Fran worse than LA now? You're a Cali guy.
Yeah. So San Francisco is much worse than Los Angeles, and I'll tell you why now. At least, and this is just hearsay, okay? Because I haven't spent a lot of time there. I don't go there as much anymore. But my sister, who's in her early 40s, has a family, lives in Los Angeles. They are very left wing and tolerant. It's always colorful at our family reunions. But she did tell me kind of a change in the way Los Angeles started looking at homelessness. Okay. And they said, listen, in the old days when you saw Skid Row and just everywhere and stuff like that, they were like, we got to be compassionate to everybody. We got to make everybody as comfortable as possible. And that was becoming unsustainable in Los Angeles. Anybody who's been there can see what's going on in those towns. And so they decided there's 3 types of homeless. There's the newly homeless, prototypical newly homeless would be, a single mother who's been, maybe the subject of domestic violence, has children, has to move out of the house for safety, and is like living out of a car or something like that. That's one example. Okay. Another category would be the mentally unwell. Not just, some people want to be like, everybody who's homeless is mentally unwell. That's not true. They said in Los Angeles, they said there's people who are mentally unwell and are like, just, we've seen those people before and we kind of know them, it's not always obvious, but sometimes you can see it's obvious. The third category is what they call the urban cowboy. And I think it's a great phrase, the urban cowboy. And this is just somebody who's decided that they want to live this lifestyle, whether they want to have access to, drugs and don't want the responsibility of working or finding it, but they've decided to live sort of so it's largely, primarily, I would say, a choice that this is the lifestyle that they've chosen, so the city of Los Angeles said we have limited resources and it's starting to become problematic. And they decided to dedicate their resources to category 1, the newly homeless, and then secondarily to the mentally unwell. and then to stop trying to make life comfortable for the urban cowboys. And that's not to say to harass them and rough them up or ship them onto a plane to Antarctica or something like that, but to stop spending money and resources and trying to house people who just don't want to be housed, and that would be the question that I would like to ask this gentleman, Christion, who lives in the tent, to say, do you want to live in housing? Because you see on Facebook and stuff, a lot of guys are like, hey, well, the solution to this thing is to get them housing. But I'm not convinced. I'd like to talk to him, but is he looking for that? Or is he an urban cowboy and he's decided that I'm going to live in tents and I'm going to live off the land, and this is the choice that I've made? And I think that framework might help us better understand where to dedicate our compassion and our concern for homeless people who are living in homelessness. Maybe it's not so much on the urban cowboys. If this guy's looking to get housing, let's help him get there as a community. I think maybe we can, there's a lot of ways we're doing that with tax dollars and philanthropy that we can do that, and human compassion.
Well, he told me he was willing to work, and he just didn't like the structure of a shelter, and he disconnected his phone number, so I can't ask him anymore.
Yeah, I know. It'd be nice to ask him. Do you want to live in a house? Do you want to live in, if somebody were to give you a place in North Chicago at $300 a month or something like that, would that be something that you want, or are you looking to camp out? And I think that will help. That can help us as a community start to think about. That's why let's start with in some ways we think about the policy, but maybe we could also think about the people, and let's look at the people and figure out how to support them. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. And I'll add to this Christion deal. It's like a cross between a stealth camper and a hobo, because that's stealth. Kids today are minimalists. They can live out of a car, they don't want to pay rent, or they don't want to work. They'd rather have experiences. That's going to probably last till they're 40, and then they'll figure it out. But you run into these situations where, let's just take Lake Forest, where, okay, maybe we lucked out because the guy put a tent in the ground or somebody gave him a tent. And if he just had a cardboard box, technically, I think he could still be living there. So how do we change these laws around to make it easier? Because the only thing that I can figure out is the parklands, maybe lease it to the podcast, and I will patrol the podcast grounds. And if there's somebody loitering on my property, I will call the cops on them.
I think we need to get you one of those AI images that you make in a sort of a kind of private security. Can you get that done?
The mall cop.
Yeah, I think Pete, it's a great point, and I think the distinction that we're seeing is the city can enforce the tent thing because that's putting up a structure, and nobody can put up a structure on public land, but we all have a right to be on public land. And largely in part of that Julie Morrison law, we're not allowed to treat somebody differently because they're a quote a hobo or a vagabond. And under state law, you can't, it has to be equal. So we all have a right, theoretically, I guess, to be on the public land. We all have a right to be there, our physical persons. So that's where in Illinois, the city really doesn't have much available to it, because the homeless law and maybe other laws, I don't know, to remove somebody just because they're homeless or just because they're they're doing it. Now they can regulate activity, and it gets into sort of beyond my purview, but my understanding is that if the guy's sleeping in the bushes, there's very little that our city can do to remove him from that. He's going to has a right under Illinois.
We can offer him a bottle of Mad Dog and drop him off in front of the Parkway at Prue Beidler's and Julie Morrison's house. Seriously, if they had their house and that dude was right there, you think they would be bringing him soup?
To my knowledge, Julie Morrison hasn't said a word about this issue. She lives here in Lake Forest now. She voted for this legislation. I would like her to, you should have to come on the podcast, but I think she should give a vigorous defense of why she passed that law and why she thinks that this, the citizens of Lake Forest I mean, must have a reason. So she should say it, but she should own it and go to Oakwood and Washington and talk to those neighbors over there and tell them, hey, listen, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to, you have to take the burden of this because this is the right law. And I think she owes us as a community, I think, an explanation, and shouldn't just kind of like disappear when things get hard, like I think she needs
to. Philippe, let me put my aluminum foil hat on.
Yeah.
She was on the Liberal podcast just last week.
Oh, she was?
The Liberal,
yeah, I didn't know that.
Okay, so she was on there for 30 minutes and none of this came up. And I've had people reach out to me and say, why hasn't the Liberal the transparency people, why haven't they spoke out on this issue? And some people are telling me, again, I have aluminum foil hat on, that guy could have been an actor or a plant to put, have you heard these? I don't believe it. I talked to the guy and he was just a bum, but they're talking about that they would hire actors to go plant in places to try to get the community to be divisive on this issue, to make Randy Tack look bad because Peru lost. Have you heard any of that crap?
I mean, I suppose anything's possible. I've been accused of orchestrating this whole thing by one of your guests, Joe Severino, who lives in his own kind of fantasy land of reality. He accused me of doing it to somehow help Mary Cole's campaign or something like that. For the record, I've never met this guy, and I've had nothing to do with him being in our community.
Severino or Christion.
I think people's imaginations can get better. I tend to not try to go down rabbit holes unless I have some sort of basis or something. I mean, like if I did a Google search on this guy when I got his name, if he had 15 years of homeless advocacy in his background that I discovered, then maybe I'll be like, okay, I wonder what's going on here. But I found nothing that would indicate that that this is a setup, and so I don't believe that.
But
homeless is real. It's a real thing, like we live in a little bit of a bubble here in Lake Forest, but like it is a real thing. And there are people who are living in homeless for maybe different reasons. And so,
well, Philippe, what's funny is, we get in these Facebook battles and they say, well, we should be more compassionate in this. And I just say, hey man, why don't you go out there and help the guy? Why don't you do something? From the left, because when I talked to him on the phone, he says nobody's offered him anything. Nobody told him about any of the shelters and all that. He just basically hopped off a train, found a place. I didn't ask him where the tent came from, but he didn't look like he just went to Walmart to buy it.
Well, I did speak with an alderman who I won't name necessarily. Private conversation, but
or alderwoman.
Older person. And he or she told me that that the city's had social workers and that they've been in communication with this guy, and that they have been ensured that he knows about resources that are available in the county to help him. So I don't know, I mean, that's hearsay again, but are you
telling me a bum lied to me? A vagrant lied to me, Philippe?
Maybe maybe he was saying when he first got here. I don't know, Pete. Like that it would have been. I hope we get a chance to talk with him. I might actually go talk with him at some point here this week. But if we get a chance to do it, I think it'd be a really interesting interview, and we could.
I think he's on his way to San Fran, brother.
They're very accommodating. But it looks like a horrible place. They've really destroyed that city in San Francisco.
You cannot park your car, even if you put stuff in the trunk, man. They'll rip you off. It's crazy. I've had three buddies in the last couple months just smash and grab out of the back window, or they'll hit the window, pop the trunk, and take everything out of it. The luggage.
I mean, I'm from an hour north of San Francisco. San Francisco was where we would go to. At 16-year-old, would bring put a couple girls in the go on dates to the
trunk,
the Cliff House, and go. We'd go out to the glass elevators at Union Square, and then we'd go to Little Italy and Pier 39, and then take at the end of the day, you'd go up above the Golden Gate Bridge. It's a beautiful city, and it is heartbreaking to see what's happening. And I think it is really important for people of Lake Forest to understand that, it is about this one individual, but it's also, we need to really think about this issue because it can destroy our community really quick, because it is not good when one person might be fine. He may have a criminal record or not, or whatever. But if you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're starting to get into a population where the odds are that there's going to be some people. And I moved here because I love the idea of my daughter riding her bike to school, and the kids going into town, and not having to worry about worrying about safety, and leaving the door unlocked. And, I know we're not supposed to do that now. So we're locking the door. But what I'm saying is that that's part of the lifestyle here in Lake Forest. That's part of the reason people come here. That's part of the reason we live here and we love it. And it's not guaranteed, it's not guaranteed. We can give it up and we can give it away and turn this town into something totally different. And it can happen really, really quickly. Detroit was once the best, brightest, best city in the world. Look at it now, and now it's trying to recover from the depths of despair, and
I'd rather be in Detroit than San Fran. I'm just telling you.
These days, yeah.
And they both suck.
San Francisco, my God, we used to have so much fun going to San Francisco. Now I'm not sure I would be comfortable having my kids go to San Francisco as 16-year-olds driving their cars around,
So Morrison, please explain how this homeless bill is a positive thing. Don't get it. She ain't never going to come on. This is what's going to happen, and it just causes wasted energy. I don't get it. Don't tie the hands of our leaders trying to do the right thing, because I did a post tongue in cheek. I'm that kind of guy, Philippe.
Yeah.
But it's the leaders in town, they're trying to be careful so they don't upset the 5% of the outliers on the other side that are going to cause 90% of the problems for them. And that's a shame. So, all right. So I'll leave that alone, Philippe.
Good discussion though. I think it's a complicated issue. And I think my one last closing on it is to encourage people who care about this issue or feel passionately about it. Don't take matters into your own hands, but instead try to think about
your attorney.
It's okay to have your opinion and to feel strong. It's not, I don't think it makes you a bad person if you think that this guy shouldn't be able to set up tents in the middle of town on the public space. I think you can be a good person and fully compassionate on that. And I think you'd be a compassionate person if you think he should be able to, and you think that's the right thing. But just try to spend some time thinking about the other side and other people beyond just the one that you care about, the neighbors
or the guy in front of Fresh Market that a bunch of people are giving me crap on.
Yeah.
Is he saying racial slurs?
My daughter's friend gave him a 20 spot, when he first came.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. And I was like, man, you're taking $20 from a child that, it's a little questionable. So anyway, that was the extent of my support of that guy financially.
Right. He's right next to a help wanted sign. And why can't we move that guy? I don't expect you know the answer, but I'm just asking everybody out there. That guy's irritating people. Why can't we do something about that guy right there? That's all.
I don't know what you can do. I don't know what you can do. He's on the public space, he's not harassing. He's a pleasant fella, so it's not like,
That's not what all I can go is by the emails and comments that people say me. So allegedly he gives a lot of mean comments to people. He doesn't like the way they look. Just saying.
I've never experienced that, so I don't know.
I don't go to Fresh Market. I go to Walmart, and everybody in Walmart's nuts. So. All right, on to the next. The Safety Act. That's coming. Is that September 1st or 2nd? Where that comes?
September 2nd. The Safety Act full force in Illinois. Yep.
So basically, it's if you didn't kill somebody, there's no bail.
It's a large and complicated thing. So there's multifaceted, there's components to it. It's like one of these, like this, stacks of stuff. But I think the thing that a lot of people are queuing in on are one, bail is over. The idea that you can, if you're like go beat up a homeless person or something, just kidding, but if you get arrested and they charge you, you
think he'll represent himself.
I don't know, but bail, I think it was just a citation. I don't think it was a felony or anything, but I think the idea of bail, the way that you have to go, you put up some money and you get out, that's gone. Okay, so I think there's certain classes of violent crimes where you are kind of held pre-trial. This is pre-trial detention. It's all exclusive has to do with pre-trial detention. You've been charged, but you haven't gone to trial yet. And so violent murderers and stuff like that can go in. But if you're anything short of like a few kind of very, very specific violent crimes, including like robbing your car and stuff like that, then you can only be held pre-trial if and only if the state's attorney makes a motion to try to ask the judge to put you in pretrial.
Judge's got to look at it.
Yep. The judge has no ability. So, there's no, it's all the power is vested in pretrial detention in one person. In this case, it's Eric Reinhart, who's the state's attorney in Lake County. Full disclosure, I'm helping his candidate of his opponent, but this is not
full disclosure. I've been talking smack on Reinhardt for about a week now, at least.
Okay, I don't want to look like I'm like, but yeah. So it puts a lot of power into this one person. Okay, that person has exclusive ability to put something in detention, and so it really matters after the Safety Act's law. Now there's not, it's not a matter of whether the Safety Act's good or bad. This is the law. And I think, part of the reason I'm really passionate about this state's attorney race, and I think it's important, is one of the reasons is this pretrial detention, is that we want to have somebody who's a state's attorney who is going to handle that power responsibly. And I think Mary Cole will do that. And I think Eric Reinhart, who's a lifelong defense attorney who always feels excess compassion, in my opinion, towards the person who is alleged to have committed the crime versus the considerations of public safety or the victim's considerations. He's got his thumbs on the scale of justice towards the accused. That's his character. That's his passion. That's where he comes from. And so we have somebody who doesn't have our community's best interest and will always kind of put his thumbs on the scale as opposed to kind of balancing all the equities. And so I don't think it's a good policy for us here in Lake County and safe for us to have somebody like Eric Reinhart with all that power to let, the guys, maybe it's, without getting into specific cases, like these guys who are burglaring 10 cars in Lake Forest. What if they caught that person? I would say Eric Reinhart, more likely than not, would be like, okay, we're going to charge you later, but for the right now, you're free to go, on your own cognizance, and, who knows, maybe next week they'll come back to Lake Bluff as opposed to Lake Forest to steal 10, to rob 10 cars. I don't know. But that there's a real difference in this race between Mary Cole and Eric Reinhart on kind of how they're going to execute that very important power that derives from the Safety Act.
I don't get it. I mean, Mary Cole came on and she gave her, what'd she say? We don't want to have pauper prisons. And so the one question I asked her was, is there going to be enough jail space if we arrest everybody? And dumb me, I didn't think about it. There's going to be nobody in the jails now because everybody's going to be out on the street. Right. So,
yeah, it's going to be empty jails. And now when she said the paupers was, I think that was in response to you asking her why people.
Yeah, why? That's what I'm saying. Talk to me about the Safety
I just want to
Act.
say that's not her policy to support.
That's not her, but that's why it was put in place by the Democrats, right?
That's what Eric Reinhart might say, is we don't want to have paupers prison. The fact is that that's just false. And they're solving a problem that doesn't exist because the judges do under the bail system, they do a lot of great work on trying to make sure that the bail is appropriately set, so if you're super wealthy guy, your bail might, same crime, your bail might be higher than if you have no money and you're charged for the same crime, your bail is going to be much less. That's how the judges, and the state's attorney.
Well, Philippe, I don't know too much about this other than you put down 10% of your bail and some guy named Joey Bag of Donuts fronts it. And if you don't show up in court, Joey Bag of Donuts comes looking for you. It's a great incentive to get somebody in the court. So,
I think those the traditional bail bond stuff is a little bit highly regulated or outlawed in Illinois, but there are ways for people to make bail, but it's gone. Starting September 2nd, there will be no more bail. That's a thing of the past in Illinois.
So shoplifting, we have an issue with shoplifting now, so it can only get worse, is what you're telling me? You don't even have to waste your time.
I fully expect crime, particularly petty crime and lower level crimes and nuisance crimes, to skyrocket in Lake County. And I think criminals, people who would commit those things, are drawn to Cook County and Lake County because they know that they can get away with a lot of stuff. It's already
Because
happened. We're seeing in the past, and it's with the Safety Act. It's only gonna see more. You're gonna see a bunch of people being released from prison on September 2nd.
well, let's
Yeah.
go back to your buddies in San Fran. I mean, to go to a Walgreens there, you want an ice cream bar, it's under lock and key.
The
You can't.
negative. I think a lot of times, these legislators and these ideologues like Eric Reinhardt and the state legislators like Julie Morrison and Bob Morgan who support him, they see a problem.
Democrats.
They see a problem, and so they like fixate on solving the problem, and they don't think about the negative consequences of what's going to happen from their laws, and they never take. I never see them take responsibility. Like I would like them to say. I would love Eric Reinhardt to say, you know what, we're doing this and it's important. Yeah, you, John P. Public in Lake Forest and Lake Bluff, you're gonna experience more crime. You're gonna have to be more careful about locking your cars. You're gonna have to think twice about sending your kids to Great America. You're gonna have to think about those things in a way that you didn't have to before. And I understand that. That's because of this law, but I understand it because we also have this other important problem. And this problem is more important or as important as your problems. And so, but they always try to say, hey, there's not going to be any negative consequences for our policies, that there's not going to be a spike in crime. And if they do, they'll never admit it. But we don't have the choice. We don't have the choice. We have to live it because we have to live with it. And that's what's at stake here. It's not I think that they have a cognitive dissonance and they don't even acknowledge in their own brains that this is going to happen. They just pretend that they're solving a problem and that there's not going to be negative consequences. But we have to live with it. Every day we hear about it.
Yeah. Our poor coppers, man. They just want to do their job. They do their job. They're coming in and let them go. It's like another Uber service,
Yeah, I mean, there's different elements of where a state's very important, and another one is whether or not you charge a crime. So if you're out there and the police, if you committed a felony or something like that, they'll call. There's state's attorneys, agents who are awake 24/7, and something happens, and the police think that they've got enough to charge. They call the state's attorney, and they've got all the elements in the state's attorney's office. They call it the felony review board. They call him up, and the felony review board says, "Yeah, charge him or don't charge him." And what we're seeing with Eric Reinhardt and his administration is that
don't charge them.
So the police officers, our local Lake Forest and Lake Bluff, talk to any of them. They do all this work to try to build up a case. And then there's just like turned out. And I think it's because largely based on political ideology reasons, as opposed to law and order ideologies. Like, do the elements of the crime fit? They're saying no, because we don't feel that person should be
subjective versus objective
political ideology. Yeah. So it's more, so it's an important race, one of the things that marriage-based challenge is to articulate why that state's attorney race is important. And I think it is an important race. You vote for a state senator or state legislature, that's just going to be one of 100 or something like that. It's not going to make a huge difference. This person has a lot of power, particularly after the Safety Act. And it's an important race for people to pay attention to and to get involved with if they want to, in my opinion. Of course, I'm biased, but whatever. But I do think I think I'm spinning it straight here. So,
Eric, Eric, I know you're listening out there, or maybe not. I give everybody a fair shot. Just look at me and Philippe. We didn't start off on the right foot. Okay, I've been talking smack on you for a while. You want to come on and give your side of things? Come on. I don't think he has a side, so I don't think he will go on. Let's go on to the third thing here, Philippe. Parents care, Lake Forest, Lake Bluff. You're also a parent. I don't know if you can separate the two. School has just started. And as I came in to my home from O'Hare, coming down Deer Path Road, and that lovely time to be in town at like 8:15 a.m. where everybody's dropping off their kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
I love that traffic jam.
What is because people are so passionate worried about traffic jams for the artificial turf and all that. Why can't we be passionate about is the school bus no good here, or what's parents don't want to give up control of dropping their kids? You're a parent. I'm just asking.
They do have school buses. I don't know why they're not used more than they are. Maybe it's a bit expensive. My kids ride their bikes or walk to school. I live close to the high school and bikeable to the Deer Path, and walk to the high school. So we use human power to get to school. I don't know why. I don't know why the buses and the cars. All I know is my best solution is to avoid Deer Path at those at 8 o'clock or whatever in the morning, because that's a nightmare getting stuck in
Yeah,
that.
I didn't
You
avoid
only
it,
learn
but
that lesson once or twice,
but Philippe, I'm just reaching out to this is me saying it. I'm reaching out to the Democrats out there that are worried about global warming and all that. And
Hmm.
of course, they're driving an SUV,
Hmm.
Escalade,
Yeah.
spinning rims, smoke coming out the back, and they don't want their kid to go on the school bus. I don't
Yeah.
get it. Oh, and these same people have like each one of them in the car have a plastic water bottle.
Yeah. You
They-
know, not to take over the show, but
But
one solution a lot of people have decided to do is these electric scooters and bikes, and I think that's something you wanted to talk about this show, or maybe you want to save it for another
no,
show.
let's go because it's well, here you
It's
start
an
it,
issue.
and I'll give you. I have my unique view on it, and it's not going to be popular, but go ahead.
Well, let's flip seats. Pete, I'll be the host for a second.
Okay.
What do you think? We're hearing a lot of people in the community articulating that there's safety issues. I think there might have been a collision recently. But it's a great way to get around. Hey, it's good for the environment. These kids have a lot of freedom, and so what's your take on this
I
issue?
would love to be able to get around the sidewalk at 50 miles an hour. Just sit across from Sweets. Just put a folding chair and just watch across from Sweets.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get killed. And then all of a sudden, the crackdown is going to come in right now. Anybody that's coming on any of those storefronts, okay, and somebody's coming down, okay, maybe not 50, but 20 miles. I love physics in high school, all 6 years of it. But there's this thing called inertia that's coming in. And let's just say, you're an older person like myself, Philippe. I'm kind of big, though. I think I would
hurt. There's anybody in town you do not want to hit on your electric bike, it's you, Pete. I'm just saying.
But you come out, and I got my dilly bar, and some kids coming in, they're getting wiped clean. So it's going to be
I think it's a real safety
event. It's going to be.
I agree.
They don't. It's not just one. They're in like a pack, right? Yeah. At least what I've seen, 2 or 3 coming together. Shoom, 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 shoom. And then somebody with their Escalade that just got done dropping off their kids at school is going to take these kids out, and then everybody's going to be sad and say, "Why didn't we do something?"
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the way to look at this is to pretend that the tragedy has already happened, and then think about the policy. I don't think we need to lose one of our beautiful kids in this town to then act. I think, and I don't know what the action is. I know it's probably really hard for the city planners to kind of think about how to balance the equities. I rented those scooters in Austin, and had a great, we were doing around, like it's fun, super dangerous, no helmets. Yeah. Don't tell my wife, but I did notice that in certain areas of the town, I think it was maybe through the rental company, but the ability to go fast was cut, and you could only just kind of go at 2 miles per hour, like really slow. So I wonder if maybe there's a speed limit through this particular urban cores or certain areas where it's basically walk it, or it's moving at like less than 1 hour. I don't know if there's a technology to do that, or if there's just a policy.
Yeah, it's called carpet tax.
Carpet tax? What does that mean?
Tax, nails.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. But there's absolutely no excuse to tolerate kids going at 25 miles an hour on the sidewalks, around downtown. That is so dangerous. And it's gotta stop.
All right. Here's something that I heard. Now, you and I, we're fan of the boys and girls in blue, right? We prop them up. But I've heard that they don't want to deal with the paperwork or the hassle of, dealing with the kids. But I've also heard that from other parents that the police don't have a problem with dealing with the kids when they're doing parties at night. So, like, have you heard any of that, Philippe?
I haven't really been intimately involved. We don't have those at our house. I don't know, but
okay. But have you heard that the police don't want to deal with it? They don't want.
I haven't heard that. I'll take your word for it. And I understand. All I'm saying is what I would say, and I don't know if it should fall on the police or the school or all of us as a community or maybe technology, but going back to it, it may seem like a trifling thing now until somebody's little girl gets hit by
little
an
Johnny's
escalade.
brain is all
And then
over
we're going to
his
go back and be like, what the heck were we thinking? You know, I don't want somebody's little girl to have, you know, I don't want to hear about that funeral. I really don't. I want them to put safety first and act as if the tragedy has already happened. I think that can go a long way to maybe helping us.
It's not just the electric scooters. The scooters on the sidewalk are a big issue for the storefronts. We're not even talking about the bicyclists who don't stop at the stop signs that are just carrying through with their AirPods on. Yeah. And you got pickups, coming through there. So unfortunately, we're going to see something happen. And then, hey, I hate to be the one that said, I told you so, but I told you so.
I don't want to hear. I don't even want to hear you say that anymore. I don't want the "I told you so" because it's going to be tragic if and when something happened. I think we've already had a collision in town. Somebody told me about or something. Yeah. So it's I know that the police have more important things to do in some ways, but like these are our little kids, and the parents can't rein them in, and I know how hard it is sometimes to do that. It might be a component.
Not really. It's not that hard.
It can be. You don't know what they're doing when you're not with them necessarily. But any event, I think we need a solution. The storefronts, lower speed limits. There's got to be some sort of speed limit or technology to solve the in-town thing. And I think the schools maybe can be helpful in providing a forum for kids to learn how to be safe on their bikes and on their electric scooters and different sort of things. And really, no electric bikes with the gigantic tires rolling down the freaking sidewalk. Like if you're gonna be a 13-year-old driving essentially a small motorcycle, get on the street. Don't shift the risk onto pedestrians. Take your chances on the streets. I would say, because
the streets aren't wide enough here to do a bike lane, right? You can't, especially like, again, Sweets. It's like, I know they got that crosswalk there, but even with the crosswalk that says stop, you have the cars parked so close there, you can't even see. Even if you're stopped, you can move up just a little bit and take somebody out there. So whatever. We said it, Philippe. We said it.
Hopefully we don't have to say I told you so. I really hope we don't have to.
Did you clear your palate, Philippe? Did you have anything else on here? Anything else you want to talk about the school? Because
I think those are some of the hot topics. One maybe slight issue that I saw recently is at Lake Forest College. I don't know if you've ever addressed the issue of Lake Forest College, but it's one of the few colleges in the country that is still requiring vaccine COVID vaccine in order for students to attend, which I find to be a little bit ridiculous based on the science that we know now. It's certainly a personal choice to take a vaccine, and it affects how strongly you are susceptible to COVID. But I don't think it's really appropriate for the college to be forcing kids to get the vaccine in order to attend.
Get a flu shot.
It's a nice university. Yeah, it's not.
It's ranked hot.
The vaccine doesn't have anything to do with communicability and giving it to somebody else. So there's really no basis for it, in my opinion, for a mandate. So if anybody from Lake Forest College is watching that, listen, I'm paying attention to it, and maybe, might start talking about it a little bit more, because I think it's wrong. And it's not like all colleges are doing this. It's just a handful of colleges across the country. It's a super outlier. And I think it's embarrassing that Lake Forest College is one of the schools in the country that's doing that. And if you know anybody who's on the board at Lake Forest College, talk to him, ask him, why are you being
Coach Cat? I'm going to interview you about the football team. They haven't lost a game in like 2 or 3 years. I'm going to say, hey man, you know anything about this? And of course he's going to say no, but I will bring it up anyways. Philippe, maybe with you on the show.
Okay, whatever you need, Pete. I'm always happy to be on the Lake Forest.
All right, so next time we see you, Philippe, it will be part of the Lake Forest Lake Bluff Parents Care. Hopefully we got Jeff Brencat and we can get an update on what's going on in schools. This is just you and I at the bar having a couple suds, right? Make sure the brands are okay. And of course, Mary Cole, great lady. Hey, Eric, come on, man. Here's your platform. Let's go. I've been blowing you crap for a week. Deny. Philippe Melin, thank you so much for coming on Lake Forest Podcast.
Been a pleasure, Pete. Keep up the good work. Talk to you soon.
Mediocre is what I aspire for. Bye. The Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Looking for the best pool supplies? Look no further than Dohany's Pool Supplies. With a history dating back to 1967, this family-owned business offers everything families need to keep their pools clean and sparkling, from chemicals to equipment. Plus, customers enjoy free shipping on all orders. Visit Dohany's Pool Supplies today at doheny.com, DOHENY.com, to learn more. Forest Bluff Real Estate Team serves Illinois, Wisconsin, Lake Forest, and Lake Bluff. John Josephitis, Laura Lee Van Fleet, and of course Michelle Parnell. Get a free market analysis now at forestbluffrealestate.com. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Havey Communications has been helping first responders arrive safely since 1983. It's owned by Lake Forest's own Mike Havey. Check them out at haveycommunications.com. Are you looking for beer, wings, and swings in Lake Forest? Well, check out Duffer's Pub and their state-of-the-art golf simulators. This primo setup is the perfect place for your next corporate event. Yes, let your boss win. And of course, all the games will be on the TV, and you'll never go hungry because the za and wings are scrumptious. Go to Duffer's Pub on Western Avenue now. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters, Otto, John C., and Helen.